Welcome into the DFS Den. It's Dave Eddy here, aka Corporal Eddie on Twitter. Let's get into QB plays for week one. And I'm going to start off with cash. There's two quarterbacks that I think stand out to me this week in cash. This is a kind of unique week because I think that across all positions that there's actually a lot of plays that I can wrap my head around. And I don't know if that's just because it's week one or probably more so that, at least on DraftKings, pricing is pretty soft, and that's not what we're used to. And it's only going to get harder as the season goes on. But for now, there's lots of options at all the positions of play. So, anyways, to get back to cash, Jalen Hurts against my Detroit Lions is one that I like. It surprisingly got the third highest game total on the slate. And Jalen Hurts is a guy that, in DFS especially, that rushing really elevates his floor. And in cash, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a high floor more so than a high ceiling, because there's a lot of guys I'm going to name that have a much higher ceiling than Jalen Hurts, but his floor is right up there with the best of them. And he's going up against pretty poor Lions defense, of course. And I actually expect that Jalen Hurts is going to throw the ball more this year than we've seen in the past. He's a guy that, the Eagles, I think the Eagles more so are probably playing for 2023. Not that they're not trying to win this year, of course, but they've got, those draft picks coming up next year, 3 in the first 2 rounds. And I think that they're going to have Hurts throw more to see what it is they got to determine what they need to do in that draft. So anyways, that's getting, a little bit outside the box, but sometimes that's what you need to think of when you're trying to, decide between a couple of things. So I like Jalen Hurts against Detroit. I also like Lamar Jackson against the Jets. This is a team that, just like all of last season, their running backs, are hurt. And we don't know exactly what we're going to see. We could see some J.K. Dobbins. Theoretically, we could see a lot of J.K. Dobbins, but I doubt it. We could see a lot of Mike Davis. That's scary in itself. We could see Kenyon Drake as well. So we don't know exactly what we're going to see there. So I actually think that means we're going to probably see some more of Lamar running. And I think that either way, we're going to see Lamar with a huge impact in the game because, he's a guy that obviously a quarterback is going to be touching the ball on every single play, but I think they're going to literally put the ball in his hands even more so than usual. So I could see him with a few more runs than you would normally see. And going up against the Jets team that isn't that great, again, very high floor, I think, for Lamar with that rushing upside. And he does actually have a much higher ceiling, I think, than Hurts as well. But I don't know where I'm going to go yet in cash, but those are the two guys that I'm leaning on. They're both viable in MME this week as well. I would prefer Lamar over Hurts. Lamar is going to be a little less owned, so that helps. I think he's got, a very clear target in Mark Andrews. So you can argue that helps. You can argue that hurts as well. It depends how you want to look at it. But let's get into other guys specifically for MME that I like. We're going to start with Patrick Mahomes. Right? Patrick Mahomes in DFS is usually a good play. He's going up against Arizona, pretty terrible defense. Now, it's a different Kansas City Chiefs team than what we're used to, of course. We've still got Travis Kelce, but then who do we got? It could be Juju, could be MVS, Sky Moore, McCole Hardman. There's lots of guys that we don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. We know Kelce's going to get his, but we don't know who else. And Kelce's going to be, chalk tight end. So not saying you can't pair them together, because in this week, especially with how soft pricing is, you're going to see pretty spread out exposure. So I don't think you need to necessarily, play as strongly into the ownership game as usual. That you still want to find leverage, but I don't think you need to play in the ownership game quite as much as you normally would. But, Mahomes is certainly in play here, and it's certainly something where you could double stack. For me, it would be Kelce and who for a double stack. And then the run back could be interesting because we don't know exactly who's going to be on the field right now for the Cardinals. So, last thing I'd want to do is just go, fairly chalky Mahomes, very chalky Kelce, and let's say Rondale Moore plays. He's going to be chalky as well. You can do that, but you're going to need to make sure that you're different elsewhere in the lineup so that, whenever you're sharing that same stack, because it's going to be prevalent, that you have differences elsewhere so that you can take down, a tournament on your own and not have to split it. Joe Burrow, that's my guy. I love Joe Burrow. going up against the Steelers. This is a team that has some very good and very clear targets. We got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, very sneaky, Hayden Hurst, guy that I really like this week. I like him as a leverage play. I'm not saying that he's going to be like my top owned tight end or anything, but in a Burrow stack, I definitely like the idea of picking one of those wide receivers and then pairing him with Hurst for a double stack. I think that can get you a little bit unique. I don't know. That's kind of, one thing I'm thinking, because Hurst is in the range of, a cheap tight end where it's quote unquote a punt, but you're more just saving, some money. And I also like the idea of having Joe Mixon as your secondary piece to a double Burrow stack. Let's talk about Justin Herbert. He's going up against Las Vegas. Same thing, 2 huge targets. He's got Allen Williams, guys that anyone who plays Herbert is most likely going to stack there. But I want you to keep an eye on Gerald Everett. I think that he's a tight end that you can most certainly stack with Herbert. Again, it could be a double stack. Pick Allen or Williams and pair it with Everett. I think that that's very in play. I also like the idea of stacking him with Eckler. Eckler is going to get a ton of touches in week 1, and it's not just going to be on the ground. So I'm not saying go Everett and Eckler, though in a large field MME, that's an option. But, these are things you want to think about here. And very high team total here. So he's going to be someone that a lot of people are going to play. So, again, you just need to make sure that you're not getting too chalky. Outside the field, Derek Carr. He's got Adams now, and he's got Waller. Again, 2 very obvious stacks. I'm not sure I'd go anywhere else. I mean, obviously you have Renfrow that you could go with, Carr as well, but I think I would stick with Adams and Waller, which for that reason, because the options are so limited, I probably am not as high on him as other quarterbacks this week, but absolutely someone I'm going to have some exposure to. A guy that I really like this week, Kirk Cousins, going up against Green Bay. I think this is going to be a sneaky game where, it's not as high on the game total as some others. So I think that the ownership might get waned a little bit. It's in the afternoon slate where, all of the big games are at. So I think that this game could kind of fly under the radar. Not a lot, because there's some big names in this game, but I think it could fly under the radar a little bit. Of course, you can stack him with Jefferson. That's obvious. I think that's everyone's preference. But don't forget about Thielen. Don't forget about Osborne. And don't forget about Irv Smith. I think that's a really good option to, again, be probably a double stack, whether it's Jefferson and Irv or Thielen and Irv. I think you can go those routes if you want to. And then I don't even hate Dalvin Cook here as an option for part of the double stack. So, Thielen, Cook, Jefferson, Cook. I mean, again, large field MME. If you want to go Irv and Cook, I can see that making sense. And then I really like the run back of being Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is almost by default going to be like the, wide receiver 1 for Green Bay. I think he's going to get a ton of pass work. And I think that people are probably going to be looking, for the run back to be a wide receiver. I think Aaron Jones is sneaky, and not sneaky, but I think he's a solid play for the run back this week. Now, again, some guys that are, either pivots, dart throws, leverage off of, other parts of the field here. And I'm going to go Ryan Tannehill. I know that sounds scary, but he's got Woods, he's got Hooper, he's got Westbrook, he's even got Treylon Burks if you wanted to. I like Woods or Hooper. I think most people are going to go Woods in that scenario. Hooper makes a lot of sense to me, and I actually think Westbrook gives you some more leverage there as well. And part of the reason for Tannehill here is I think that Derrick Henry is going to be a very popular running back, and he should. So you can kind of get off of that and use Tannehill as leverage against Derrick Henry. So just an option. And to be fair, Tannehill is much better whenever Henry's on the field, like shocker, right? And then the last one I like is, the most chalky quarterback of the week right now is looking like Jalen Hurts. And I said in my videos before, for, gaining leverage, look at who the chalky quarterback of the week is and go on the opposite side of the field. And that's Jared Goff. Jared Goff has got some weapons this year. He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got DJ Shark. He's got TJ Hawkinson. You can put Swift into that mix. He catches tons of balls out of the backfield. 3rd highest game total on the slate, so we're looking at getting some points. Odds are lines are playing from behind. I'm going to be playing Jared Goff in MME. Not at a crazy high level at the moment, but I'm definitely going to be playing him. That's my favorite leverage play for sure of the week. Now, that's going to do it for me here for quarterbacks this week. If you haven't done so yet, pop on over here, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure and drop a like on here if you've enjoyed this video or if you've been enjoying any of these videos. And hey, I look forward to seeing you in the green.